This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
Week 1 is in the books, and the NFL not as scoring happy as I would have liked in week number 1. We did get that big over for the Bills and the Ravens, and of course, last night, Monday Night Football did go over too, but overall, lower scoring than expectation for week number 1, which is going to weigh on my mind pretty heavily for week 2, because although I've made some adjustments into my model, obviously teams had their efficiency lower because they didn't play well in week 1, stuff like that, I am still showing value in overs for week number 2. So we're going to try to navigate that. I'll discuss it at the top and kind of outline why I'm not going to fully back down from the assumption that I have baked into my model, but then also go game by game through week 2 to get you ready for the second week of the 2025 NFL season. Welcome on into Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, here to break down all 16 games on the week 2 NFL slate, breaking down my models, spread and total predictions, and where I'm seeing value on the board at FanDuel Sportsbook. We'll dive into all that here in just 1 second, but first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. 5 shows every single week right here on the feed throughout the NFL and college football season. Tomorrow, talking some college football. Thursday, NFL full preview. Friday, NFL player props, all right here in this exact same feed. So search for Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe. And if you like what you hear, maybe say 5-star rating and review as well. And of course, these shows do go up on the FanDuel YouTube, the FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page as well. FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page. Leave us a thumbs up there and subscribe to get these shows as they go live Monday through Friday, plus the DFS show on Thursdays as well. FanDuel's getting you ready for kickoff with an offer you won't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style, FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is finally here. The only question is, are you ready to play? Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-79-7777 or visit ccpg.org/Chat Connecticut. Visit MD Gambling Help Oregon, Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Before we dig into the game-by-game preview for week 2, do want to go through my thoughts on totals across the board for this week. Similar to last week, if you listen to the show, I am seeing value on a lot of overs this week. And as you saw on Twitter, most likely, most of the games went under across week 1. Did end with a couple of overs for Sunday night and Monday Night Football, but overall, scoring environment is pretty soft across the NFL. And if you look at the week 2 betting odds, totals are higher than what they were in week 1. 44.8 is the average points, but my model is actually a bit higher than that. And I'm up at 47.7 for this week as far as the average total. Part of that is because there are a lot of indoor games. About half the games are indoors for this week, and wind speed does play a pretty big role in my model, but also most quarterbacks still healthy outside of Brock Purdy, who I'm still projecting is in as things stand. But like, we're not seeing a lot of destitute quarterback situations across the NFL as things stand. So that was why my model was high for week 1, in addition to the changes to the touchback rule, potentially creating better field position, which we didn't see in general, I thought, across week 1. So I did make a downgrade in my model a bit, because sometimes there will be changes in ways referees are calling penalties that can lead to different scoring environments. That's why I have like the baseline number in the model, is so I can change it. Like, okay, overall scoring environment has decreased, increased based on kickoff changes, based on the way they're calling penalties, stuff like that. If they're giving, receivers more or less room off the line of scrimmage to be physical, cornerbacks physical with them, stuff like that. That's why that's in the model to begin with. I did lower it a bit, still above on total. So I don't see value in any unders this week personally. And I want to be select with the overs that I bet and kind of make sure I'm not totally off. I think my assumption of scoring being up, given games indoors, given quarterback health, given overall quarterback environment across the league, I still think that's correct. But I want to safeguard myself and hopefully make things a bit smoother than what they were last week. So still going to fire on a couple overs throughout the show for today, but do at least want to make sure I'm picking only ones that are furthest off from market in order to give myself some wiggle room should it still be kind of a suppressed scoring environment as we saw in week number 1. With that said, let's dive in now to the Thursday night game. That is the Commanders at the Packers. Really fun way to kick off the full Thursday night football slate. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Packers favored by 3.5, and the total in this game is at 48.5. And I do show value in the over 52.1. It's not one that's going to be on my list for right now because there are other spots where I show more value, but I do understand the overall thought process here being high on this game, given the Packers offense did look pretty decent with Jordan Love slinging it, throwing the ball downfield quite a bit. I thought Deebo Samuel integrated well to the Commanders offense right away too. So I think that both offenses will play well. And this Commanders offensive line held up well against that Giants pass rush for the most part last week. So the Micah Parsons effect, while important, may not be overly concerning. So I do think the over is interesting. No read on the spread for me. I've got this as Packers by 3, so a slight lean towards the Commanders, but not enough for me to actually bet it. I can actually just sit back and enjoy this one. I do think I'll maybe dive into the touchdown market for Thursday, given I'm showing value in the over. That may be my preferred route for betting this game, just because, again, I've got some spots where I show more value elsewhere. So Packers -3 for me, total 52 and 52.1. No initial bets here for me for the Thursday night game. Next game up is the Browns and the Ravens. Right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, the spread in this game is sitting at the Ravens -11.5, and the total at FanDuel Sportsbook is 45.5. I think the total for the Ravens and Browns is one of those that is too low. And there are a couple reasons for that. The first one is this Ravens offense is going to score points against the Browns. I know the Browns defense played really well in week 1, but that's the Bengals, and they were at home. And the Bengals, I do like for a bit this week, but I think it's a different situation going on the road to face Baltimore, whose offense was humming in week 1 against the Bills. Baltimore now at home as well. And I do think that this Joe Flacco-led offense to the Browns, it tends to be pretty pass-heavy. Passes, when they're incomplete, stop the clock. And if they're not incomplete, they're moving the football. So in general, I am more inclined to bet overs in Browns games. We got Joe Flacco starting because of the way they tend to operate their offense with him in there. And especially because, unless Quinshon Judkins gets ramped up really fast, they don't have an elite running game at their disposal. So over 45.5 for me is a really fun play in this game. I think we could see potentially some defensive scores for the Ravens too. That does spice things up as well as far as the total goes. So again, I'm being selective with totals for this week, but this is one I am willing to grab. So I'll take the Ravens and the Browns over 45.5. That is currently -105 at FanDuel Sportsbook. As far as the spread goes, I've got the Ravens favored by 13.2. There is a correlation there where the larger the spread, the larger the total is, because you need to have more points at your disposal in order to blow a team out, which is what my model is expecting for the Ravens in this game. So it makes sense. I'd show the Ravens at -13.2, while the spread is 11.5. Not going to bet that one, but it is worth noting that do show the Ravens as justifiable favorites in this game. So do like the over 45.5 -105 in that one. Next game up is the Rams and the Titans. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, total in this game 42.5, and the spread is the Rams -5.5. And I was kind of hoping we might get the Rams by a bit more than this, because I kind of wanted to bet Cam Ward in this game. Cam Ward looked really good, I thought, in week 1. Obviously, the numbers were not good and his teammates were not good, but I thought he looked poised as an NFL quarterback. And I was like, okay, goes on the road, faces the Broncos, best defense in football at elevation. Now goes home to face a Rams defense that is very good, but not as good as the Broncos. And again, it's at home versus that one being on the road. I thought this might be a good buy the dip spot on Cam Ward and the Titans. Unfortunately, I didn't get that chance because I got the Rams by 5.4 in this game. and the total of 44.1. So I could bet the over, but again, not a lot of value there for me. 42.5 is the total of FanDuel Sportsbook. So I wanted to bet the Titans because I did think that Cam Ward looked okay in that first game, but I'm not going to get that chance just because I do think the market is not stupid. And they were aware of the fact that Cam Ward is in a tough position. So I will stay away from this one. No read from me on Rams versus Titans in that game in Nashville. Next game up is the Bears and the Lions. Right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, the Bears favored by 4.5, and the total in this game is sitting at 47.5. This is a spot to me where I can buy into the Lions. I can buy low on them. You think back to last week, it's a spot where they go on the road to Lambeau, pretty tough environment, and they're facing a Packers team that just got Micah Parsons, who played really well. Given that Parsons lines up all over the line of scrimmage, that's a spot where you want to have cohesion at center. And obviously that was their first game without Frank Ragnow. So new offensive coordinator, new DC, new center. That's a tough spot to go on the road. So although I showed value in the Lions last week, I was okay not really taking that value because I was so concerned about them in that spot. Now the model has downgraded them because we got 1 week of data. The 1 week of data was not good for the Lions. They go home. They face a Bears defense that looked okay at times in week 1 against the Vikings, but did let up some big plays. I think this is a good buy low spot on the Detroit Lions. Minus 4.5 is minus 112 at FanDuel Sportsbook. I've got the Lions favored by a touchdown, a little bit more than a touchdown, 8 points in this game. And I think that that is a good bet to make here because of the potential for them to play better. Now they've got a week of this new system under their belt, new week, the new center under their belt as well, and facing an opponent that isn't on the same level as the Packers are. So I think it's just a really different spot for the Lions. So again, minus 4.5, minus 112, that's a good read for me. And I think the Lions should be more heavily favored than this. Of all the spreads on the board for week number 2, this is my favorite. So give me the Lions minus 4.5, minus 112 as they take on the Bears at home. Total in this game, I have a 51.7. Again, it's 47.5. It's, again, a value for me, would lean towards the over, but it's not a big enough value for me to feel super, super enthusiastic there. So I'm okay riding with just the spread in this game, taking the Lions minus 4.5, and I don't have to worry if the Bears offense doesn't uphold their end of the bargain in this one. So, okay, sticking with just the Lions minus 4.5 here. Next game up is the Bills at the Jets right now, FanDuel Sportsbook. The Bills are favored by 7, and the total in this game is 45.5. This is another spot where I think the over is very much in play, with that over being 44.5 or 45.5 at minus 110. The Jets offense looked really good. And what they did is something that I think should be concerning for the Buffalo Bills based on what we saw on Sunday Night Football, because the Jets were physical at the line of scrimmage. That offensive line played really well, even without Elijah Vera Tucker. Armand Membu, I thought, looked really good. And this Jets run game, I think, will be able to move the football against this Bills defense and move the ball efficiently. Running games can sap clock, but if you're efficient and you move the football, that's okay for an over still. So I've got this one well above the over. I think it is actually my third biggest difference between my model and the total for this week. And I understand why, because of that Jets offensive line being able to have success against this Bills defense. Now, with that said, I do think the Bills deserve to be 7-point favorites. I got them favored by 7.4 in this game, so not taking the spread. But to me, this says I know the Bills will score points. They're a great offense, and they're going to get theirs. I think the Jets can uphold their end of the bargain as well, which is why 45.5 to me is not that daunting of a total. So we're going to ride with Justin Fields, ride with this Jets offense. Breece Hall looking good in week number 1. Don't need them to win. Don't need them to keep it close. Just need them to score some points, and think they will do so. So I'll take the Jets and the Bills over 45.5. That's at minus 110 at FanDuel Sportsbook as of Tuesday morning. Again, spread for me, not going to dive towards that. I think it's efficient at minus 7 in favor of the Bills. Next game up is the Giants and the Cowboys. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Cowboys favored by 5.5, and the total of this game is at 44.5. Russell Wilson starting once again for the Giants this week. I understand why, going on the road. 5.5-point dogs against the Cowboys. Really tough schedule for the Giants in general, especially to start the year. So I think riding with Russ for a bit makes sense, so as to not throw a dart out to the Wolves. I am in line with market on the spread in this game. Cowboys favored by 5.5 for me as well. So right in line there. Total 47.1 for me. So showing value in the over, but not something I want to take personally. So okay, sitting that one out and just watching the Giants and the Cowboys because I'm in line with market. Next game up is the toughest game to pin down across the entire slate. That is the 49ers and the Saints right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. Saints zero by 4.5, and the total of this game is 40.5. Of course, big news on Monday, continuing the trend of Kyle Shanahan's Monday press conference as being the most depressing thing in all of football. No George Kittle for this game. Potentially no Juwan Jennings. He doesn't have any structural damage in his shoulder, but getting a CAT scan. So it sounds like maybe there's a fracture, which would not be good for him. I'm still projecting him as in, but that's a concern. And then, of course, Brock Purdy, left shoulder injury and a toe injury. And the toe is a bigger concern. If Brock Purdy can't go, it would be Mac Jones. Mac Jones is at least good enough where I can have some faith in this offense. So when I take out Kittle, project in Purdy, and project in Juwan Jennings, got the Niners share by 5.3 points. Market's at 4.5, so about in line there. Got the total pretty far above at 46.9 because I think the Saints defense stinks. I know they did pretty well against the Cardinals, but overall not a defense I love. And the offense at least moved the football. They didn't convert on moving the football, but they did move the football at least. So I'm going to stay away from this one because there's potential for Brock Purdy to sit, and I don't want to get caught out if that does happen. Kind of feels like the market is expecting that too, with this total being as low as it is. So I'm going to sit this one out, do show value in the over, but not one that interests me a whole lot just because I am worried about that Purdy injury. So that'll be a stay away from me early in the week. Next game up is, I think, the most interesting game on the slate. That is the Patriots and the Dolphins. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Dolphins are favored by 1.5. Their money line minus 124. Patriots money line 106. Total in this game is at 43.5. And honestly, I was shocked when I saw the Dolphins were favored in this game. I have the Dolphins favored, as you probably are not surprised, based on the fact that I took their money line last week. But I thought the vibes are bad enough around them. They would be underdogs in this game, despite the fact the Patriots lost week 1 to the Raiders. I had some thought to take the Patriots money line, despite the fact my model did not show value, because I just can't, I'm not going to be able to catch up to the Dolphins and how bad this offense looked. And they're the only team where I made a change to my prior, because the way that my model works is it has like a prior, a baseline assumption of this team's offensive and defensive efficiency going into the year. And then it slowly filters in 2025 data. And the 2025 data for the Dolphins was so bad that it did downgrade them quite a bit by itself, but it wasn't enough. So I did downgrade their priors a bit because the vibes matched, the play matched the vibes, and that's concerning. So I think it was one of those spots where I actually did want to update the priors. So like the Dolphins week 1 to week 2 power rating for me was a pretty massive deviation because you had the downgrade of the prior and the 2025 data being input. That's going to lead to a big deviation. I still have them favored by 2.4. I will never touch that based on what we saw in week 1. I know Miami's a tough spot to play in September because they've got the sidelines with the shade, with the way that works out and stuff like that. The humidity is really tough for a team to go down there. So I'm not going to, I understand in theory, but the vibes are just so bad around Miami. I guess the Patriots didn't look good enough to justify being road favorites in a divisional game, given the home field advantage for the Dolphins. Total for me is a 42.2. It's 43.5 in the market, so would lean towards the under, but not a strong play for me by any means. It's a stay away from me across the board. I really have no interest in betting the Dolphins. Kind of had interest in going against my model and betting the Patriots, but it was plus 114 yesterday, plus 106 now. I think that does kind of kill the vibe on having interest in buying into them there. Next game up is the Jaguars and the Bengals right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. Bengals favored by 3.5, and the total in this game is at 49.5. I think the total is efficient in this game, so no read for me there. Got a 49.0. I do want to bet the Bengals minus 3.5, though. That's sitting at minus 106 at FanDuel Sportsbook. I know the Jaguars looked pretty good in week 1. They did win that game handedly, but a really weird game where I don't want to have a lot of takeaways because of that long weather delay. And frankly, the Panthers just didn't look very good. So I'm not sure how much of it was the Jags playing well and how much was it the Panthers playing poorly. It could go either way for me, honestly. The Bengals, obviously, especially in the second half, did not play well. But honestly, I wasn't expecting a ton out of the Bengals in that spot. Going on the road, facing a divisional opponent with a good defense in week number 1. That's a really tough spot. They turn around now, go home, face a defense that I don't really respect all that much, despite what they did against the Cardinals last week. I know Travis Hunter does help this defense for the Jaguars, given he'll play some snaps there as well. But it's not enough for me to say this Jags defense is suddenly massively different from what it was last year. So I think the Bengals are a much better team, and I'm getting them at 3.5 at home at a pretty light number of -106. I don't expect to get a 3 in this game at any point. Maybe that's a bad read by me, but I mean, maybe people are just so down the Bengals in the September narrative where they play poorly. I could understand that based on what we saw in week 1. But again, it was heavy wins, tough defense on the road. This is a very different situation. So I'm going to lay the 3.5 with the Bengals at -106. I don't feel the need to wait and see if I can get a 3 later. I do think the 3.5 is a good enough value for me to bet the Bengals, who I have favored by 6.1 points in this game. Mentioned before, the Lions are my favorite, my biggest value as far as a spread for this week. Bengals are number 2 for me, and I'm willing to take them at that number. Next game up here is the Seahawks and the Steelers. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook. Steelers favored by 2.5, and the total in this game sits at 40.5. I think that's pretty fair. The spread in this game, we got the Steelers favored by 3.3. Did get a pretty big upgrade in there for Aaron Rodgers because of his efficiency in week 1. I was never super into Seattle personally, just because of I'm skeptical of Sam Darnold outside of the Kevin O'Connell system, and they are a very one-dimensional passing offense where everything runs through Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's fun for fantasy, ain't great for real world. Because if the opposing defense knows where you're throwing the football, they can funnel a lot of resources there. And when the opposing defensive coordinator is effectively Mike Tomlin, that's even more scary. So to me, I think Seattle's in a tough spot here, which is also why I don't want to take the over at 40.5 -105. I got some 43.8. Being over on the Steelers last week was good, but don't want to run it back here because I am concerned about this this Seahawks offense enough where I think I can stay away and not get super intrigued. So, okay, staying away from the Seahawks and Steelers again. Steelers by 3.3 for me total, sitting up at 43.8. Got the Pony Bowl next up. That is the Broncos and the Colts right now. FanDuel Sportsbook. Broncos here by 2.5 on the road in this game. 42.5 is the total. I could not be closer to the market than I am with this one. Broncos by 2.6. Total for me is at 42.8. I didn't think Bo Nix played very well in week 1, but he's going indoors, facing a bad defense here. I know that the Colts played well last week. Maybe Lou Anarumo can kind of ignite this defense, which was super stagnant the past couple of years. Maybe that does help, but I still don't like the personnel that much. This Broncos offensive line is very, very good. And I think they've got some playmakers on offense too. So no read from me on this game. I am happy to stay away and not bet it because I'm showing no value anywhere in this one. I do like the over in the next game, though. That is the Panthers and the Cardinals. Right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, that total is at 43 or 45 and 44.5. I'm not sure why it's so low. It's also pretty light at -102. Now, 44 is a key number, so maybe that's why it's at -102 because people may not want to take the right over a key number. But I've got this at 51.1 because I think both defenses are pretty bad. They didn't let up a lot of points in week 1. Panthers were fine defensively, fine-ish defensively. Cardinals, 13 points to the Saints. But the Saints did move the football. They could have scored on that final drive if Juwan Johnson had hauled in that last catch to potentially get the cover for the Saints and push that game to OT. Didn't quite get there. Didn't see a lot from the Cardinals defense to make you think they were some amazing units. And, I think the Panthers offense can be able to do enough. So both these offenses were, I would say, underperforming expectations in week 1, but I still think that they're okay, especially if Ike Ekwonu gets back out there for the Panthers. Left tackle missed week 1 due to an appendectomy. Sounded like he was semi-close to playing, so I lean towards him playing in week number 2. And if he does so, Panthers are pretty, they can at least do something offensively. So to me, I am willing to go here and take a shot at this over 44.5, sitting at -102. I've got it way above that because of these two defenses, because I still think that these offenses are going to be okay in the long run, especially if Ekwonu does get back. That to me says I can take the over 44.5 and still feel good about that, even though I have concerns that my model may be too high in totals across the board for week number 2 as well. As far as the spread in this game, got the Cardinals here by 6.7. They're at 6.5, so not going to wind up betting that one. Just a total for me, over 44.5 at minus 102. Next game up is the Eagles and the Chiefs on Sunday. Or this is not Sunday football. I lied. It's an afternoon game. That's kind of fun. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Chiefs here by 1.5. It's a pick 'em though. Minus 108 in the money line both ways. And the total in this game is at 46.5. Xavier Worthy day-to-day for the Chiefs. It sounds like he might put a brace on that shoulder and try to play through it. I would lean towards him playing in week 2, but I don't have a lot of conviction in that. And I think that it helps that the Chiefs did show some life offensively. They've got a full week to prepare if he can't go. I think that does help them offensively for sure. I got the Chiefs favored by 0.6 in this game, total at 49.5. Again, not the biggest gap between the total and the market, so I'm okay staying away there because I could have to downgrade later on for Worthy. No word for me on the money line either. Again, fun game. Hoping we see Worthy to make this game a bit more fun, but no bets for me early in the week for the Eagles and the Chiefs. Sunday night football game is the Falcons and the Vikings. Vikings favored by 4.5 right now, and the total in this game is at 45.5. I've got the spread a little bit tighter. Got the Vikings by 3.6 on my end. JJ McCarthy did finish that game really well, and on early downs, he was efficient, but really conservative approach for Kevin O'Connell, which probably was just because it was McCarthy's first start, but he's never been that run heavy in the past. So might need to tweak some things in my pass run ratio projections to kind of make the Vikings a bit more run heavy. Wasn't really sure what to think about that because a lot of times when you see a coach be very run heavy, you can say they want to ease their quarterback in, or maybe they don't have a lot of faith in them. I'm not saying that with O'Connell, and maybe McCarthy showing some stones in the fourth quarter could change that equation for this week, but it caught my attention how run heavy the Vikings were last night, at least. So got the favorite by 3.6, total 46 for me. So it's a stay away, pretty efficient markets, but keeping tabs on the Falcons at 4.5. If the Vikings were to become more heavily favored, I'd have interest, but based on the current splits at FanDuel Sportsbook, where 80% of the money's on the Falcons spread, I don't think we'll see that spread length anymore from where it's at. Monday Night Football doubleheader. First game is the Buccaneers at the Texans. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook. The Texans are by 2.5, and the total in this game is at 42.5. I'm honestly pretty shocked. The Texans are favored by 2.5 in this game based on the struggles they had in week 1. I still think Christian Kirk is probably not going to play in this game. So I thought we could have seen maybe the Buccaneers be like the slightest of favorites. That didn't wind up happening. So I've got the Texans favored by 0.7 points in this game. I think the Bucs are the better team on a neutral field, and they're not being treated that way necessarily right now. So some interest in the Buccaneers. Should their money line lengthen a bit, I think I would wind up going that direction. As far as the total in this game, I have it at 46.8. So now that it's down to 42.5, that does interest me. Over 42.5 is minus 115. Texans have some offensive line injuries I want to keep tabs on, though. They had a couple of guys get hurt in week number 1, so not firing on that right away, but keeping tabs on that. That total has come down quite a bit from where it was in the look-ahead line. So keeping tabs there, not betting it right now, but we'll keep my eyes on that Buccaneers money line because I could be interested in that later in the week. The late Monday night game doesn't start till 10 p.m. Central. Is the Chargers at the Raiders. Chargers favored by 3 in this game, and the total is 46.5. Total for me 45.7, so a bit below there. Not going to take that one. I've got this a bit more tight, personally. Got the Raiders. The Chargers favored by 0.7, which means I do show value in the Raiders plus 3. It's a light 3, too, at minus 102. And the Raiders money line at plus 146, also pretty intriguing. The reason I'm not going at that right now is because I am projecting Brock Bowers as in. If Brock Bowers were to be ruled out, that would downgrade the Raiders for me. So want to get some practice reports on Brock Bowers first. Pete Carroll said he's day-to-day, but Pete Carroll is hopelessly optimistic when it comes to injuries, so I don't trust him. So I want to hold off. If we get good news on Bowers later in the week, I will be willing to take the Raiders, specifically the plus 3 at minus 102, but a bit on the money line as well at plus 146. But want to hold off until we get some news on Bowers because I do not trust Pete Carroll when it comes to injuries. So want to hold off on that one. So the bets that I like early this week are the Panthers and Cardinals over 44.5. I am buying into over 45.5 for the Bills and the Jets. Like the Lions, -4.5 against the Bears. Over 44 or 45.5 for the Browns at the Ravens. Like the Bengals, -3.5 so they take on the Jaguars. And that is the slew of bets for this week, early in the week, when it comes to NFL week number 2. We'll talk more in depth about the NFL Thursday with our full slate breakdown, and then on Friday with the player prop show as well. Looking forward to breaking that down, all of that with you later on this week. That is all that we have here for today, though, on Covering the Spread. Big thank you once again, everyone, for tuning in. If you're watching YouTube, leave us a thumbs up there. Listen on Covering the Spread, leave us a 5-star rating. We appreciate those of you watching and listening as always. If you got any questions for me, I am on X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work on the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with your bets across week 2. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow to break down college football week 3. This has been Covering the Spread. You're part of the FanDuel Research podcast.